Yes, welcome. We're going to start this week with one of boxing's greatest fighters, a man who took part in some of the biggest fights to ever take place. They changed the face of sport, not just boxing, to tell the truth. He mixed with and beat the legends that are Roberto Duran, Tommy Hearns and Marvin Hagler when they were all at their peak. Last week, his autobiography, The Big Fight, My Story by Ebury Press, was published in Britain for the first time. It's brutally honest, shocking at times, and quite brilliant. His description of the days and hours before big fights is fantastic and very, very moving. It's a delight to welcome to the BBC London Boxing Hour, Sugar Ray Leonard. Ray, are you there?
I'm here, Steve. How you doing?
I'm fantastic. Ray, I know I've asked you this before, but it still mystifies me. It still surprises me. When did you decide to be so open and frank when it came to putting down the words and telling your true life story?
Well, Steve, I never realized that I've been as transparent and as open as I have been. My main objective at first starting the book or writing the book was I was going to be a publicist in my head. Mm-hmm. I was going to protect myself. But as time went on, which it took 2 years to write the book, I found that the more I opened up, the more I revealed things that were painful to me, I felt better about myself. And it was tough. It was not an easy journey.
I mean, what were the toughest bits to write about, Ray, or in your opinion, what were the hardest bits of your life to lay bare inside this book?
Well, first and foremost, the sexual abuse that I received as a young boxer with the ambitions of going to the Olympics, an Olympic coach, because these were people that I trusted. These were people that was going to get me to the Olympics. These were people that I dropped my guards against. And even to this day, I look back on it in retrospect. Why didn't I punch the guy out? Because I was a pretty good boxer at that time. I don't know why. I think one meant more than the other. I wanted to be in the Olympics. I wanted to be successful. I wanted to be special.
Ray, once you established that you were special, turning pro after that glorious gold medal, you just were in these fight after fight after fight, and some of the most moving stuff in the book, because it's not just about the stuff the hard stuff you dealt with. Some of the most moving stuff in the book are the accounts you gave of being alone in the days, weeks, days, and months, weeks, days, and hours before big fights, and you really capture, I believe, the loneliness it takes to be at the top of your profession.
Well, I try to really elaborate on what it took to be at the top or to stay and maintain in that position of fighting in an era where you had guys like you mentioned before, Tommy Hitman Hearns, or Marvelous Marvin Hagler, Roberto Duran. I mean, those guys, like last night I had dinner here in Charlotte, North Carolina, and who pops up? Roberto Duran. He's one of the guests here.
No way.
At this event. And we hugged, we embraced, we talked about, our first fight and our second fight. This is so beautiful that rivalries at such a time were enemies, and all of a sudden, years later, they become like best friends. I think it's a very special thing.
I think it's a special thing because your initial encounters and some of the other encounters, dozens of encounters with Roberto Duran, were unpleasant to say the least. Ray, is that a fair assessment?
Oh, I hated the son of a bitch. I really hated the guy, and I don't hate anyone.
Sure.
I hated Duran. I told him that. But now, with such pals and mates, and it's a real special. This is what I missed about boxing, because even though we were rivalries at one time, the camaraderie that we have now is very, very unique and very special.
Now, you talked, Ray, about maintaining your position at the top. Now, that led to pressures, on you and in your personal life, and you did descend into a drug and into a drink hell, which, you know, there were rumours about for years and years. But in this book, you lay open just how deep that descent and how dark the abyss was.
Well, Steve, you know, I'm always asked, do you regret what you've done? I don't regret my life. I don't regret anything that I've done besides if I hurt someone, like my first wife, like my kids, like my real dear friends, things that I'm kind of, you know, have a blind side, like I forgot, you know,
Sure.
memory loss, whatever. But I regret that. I regret hurting anyone, especially people who are very dear to me and very supportive of me. But I didn't really start drinking, or it didn't escalate until I retired back in 1982. I think I was 25 or 26.
Sure.
On top of the world, and I suffered that detached retina,
Yep.
which kind of sidelined me. You know, there was no book to tell me what to do next.
There was no guidebook, nowhere for you to turn. So that's when the vodka.
No, there wasn't. I mean, I just wanted to do what I wanted to do, and I was the best of what I did.
But what's amazing, Ray, is that you do fall into this hole, into this hellish hole. But it's before some of your greatest victories. It's not at the end. I mean, you may have retired, but it's not at the end of your career. I mean, it's 5 years before you beat Hagler.
I know. I mean,
Staggering.
I think back and I put things in perspective. I don't know, Steve. I just, you know, I'm a blessed man. I'm a lucky man. I'm a talented guy. You know, I put all those things together because I have people who love me. My family, my wife. I mean, they really supported me. I was a very selfish guy at that time because I just thought about me. I did, Steve, what it took to beat those guys. You know what I mean?
You certainly did do what you took to beat those guys. Now, one of the most fascinating sort of chapters, or ongoing chapters in the book, is the on, off, and the will you, won't you, will he, won't he fight you build up with Hagler. And I'm sort of interested in that moment when you decided, it was like a revelation that you knew you could beat him. When was that, Ray?
You know, I worked for HBO, so I did the color commentating, and I was always at ringside watching Hagler fight.
Mm-hmm.
He was, to me, the ultimate fight. And I wanted it so bad, but as the years went by, you know, first year, second year, third year, I felt that there was no way that I could compete at that level, you know, being out of the ring for so long, especially against Hagler.
Sure.
But when I saw him fight John the Beast Mugabe, and he fought him in Las Vegas, and I sat ringside with a friend, Michael J. Fox, and I said, Michael, I can beat that guy. And he looked at me like I was crazy. Then I called my attorney back east. I said, Mike, I can beat this guy. And he said, you been drinking? No one thought I had a chance against this guy except my dad. But I trained so hard for that fight. I really trained so hard for that fight. But there were times, I must admit, there were moments in training camp that I felt that I can't do this. I can't get up enough to beat this guy.
You felt that. You genuinely felt that way. Now, Ray, what happened? I'm going to ask you. There's a lot of fighters at the moment, you know, still talking about making comebacks, going on too long, who are obviously a lot older than you were when you had your last fight. And you talked earlier about not regretting anything about your career. But let me ask you this: if you could do things differently, would you have had those last two fights?
No, I would not have had those last two fights. No question about that. That was my ego. That was my pride. That was also, you see, I felt safe in the ring. My marriage was damaged. It was gone. You know, I lost my first wife. I lost relationship with my older boys. I mean, I felt safer in the ring, and that's why I kept coming back for those fights. And were they dangerous? Yes, they were dangerous. Yeah. I mean, were they ill-advised? Yes, they were. But you know what? I was trying to save me from me.
And that was the safest sanctuary. Ray, since the book's come out, and thanks for your time tonight, have you had to deal with friends and family who have been maybe shocked by your admissions in the book, or perhaps even just people on the streets or at the school gates? Has that been awkward for you?
I have not, Steve. Except
Fantastic.
with the exception of my oldest son, Ray.
Yeah.
He was rather upset that I never told him about the sexual thing. And, you know, he just felt he was left out. And I said, son, I didn't know I was going to say these things. But we've talked and we've went to therapy, you know, because it's a very the book is really, really compelling, if you will.
It's staggering.
It talks about a lot of my life, my personal life.
It's such a rarity to have an autobiography from such a famous and successful sportsman. That's so good. I mean, we get rubbish ones. This is such. It's so rare. It's a pleasure to read it.
If I can help someone else out through doing this, what I've done, I would love that. Coming there. In March.
You are coming to England in March. Listen, Ray, if you're here and if it fits in with your schedule, it would be a pleasure and an honour to have you in the studio. Ray, I'm going to let you get back to your routine and your schedule. Thanks so much for your time this evening.
Thank you, Steve. We'll make it happen.
We will indeed. That's Sugar Ray Leonard talking to me there. The book's called The Big Fight, My Story. It's published last week by Ebury Press, and if you're a boxing fan, it's absolutely essential. In fact, any boxing fan that hasn't got a copy of it, I would find that amazing. Now, if you've got several other Ray Leonard books, you can throw them away, and I mean that nicely. This is the beginning and end all Ray Leonard book, and the sexual stuff, the details of the orgies, the details of the amount of cocaine he bought and used, and his drinking habits. It's real. It's not fake. It's not invented. It's not like Frank Bruno's autobiography where he talked about his cocaine abuse and said, I might have had 1 or 2 lines, you know, and it was covered in 16 lines in the paper. Oh, golly gosh. No, Ray Leonard tells the truth. It is and it's well written. It's written by this fantastic journalist. It is such a good book, and it's about $6.99, $7.99 on Amazon, and probably about £2 or £3 more in a bookshop. If you're not a boxing fan and you're a sports fan, it's essential. It's really essential. If you like autobiographies, it's essential because it's well written. It doesn't just bang from pillar to post. It's beautiful, and some of the way he breaks down the time before big fights when he's with Angelo Dundee. I forgot to ask him about Angelo Dundee. When he's with Angelo Dundee and he's waiting to get the call to go out and fight Leonard in front of 30-odd thousand people at Caesar's Palace, in fights that generated $15 million 25 years ago. This guy will be making $100 million per fight now. I tell you what, it is a fantastic book, and the man, he just sounds like he's had a weight lifted off his shoulders. The book's called The Big Fight, My Story by Sugar Ray Leonard, and I could not and I cannot recommend it highly enough. Now,